I have a camcorder, I have a monitor. That monitor is hooked up to the WeatherStar Jr, which is in turn hooked up to this camcorder. So, let's see what happens when we point the camcorder at the monitor. There's sort of weird stuff going on here. Welcome to the WeatherStar Jr overview video. I'm TWC TWC, and today I'm going to be doing exactly what I just said I was going to do. Overviewing these WeatherStar Jr units. The one on the top I bought about 3 years ago, 2 or 3, and it was working fine when I got it, so it still is. The one on the bottom was one I actually had to repair myself. The people from Wagner Communications had to give me the model number of the power supply because the one that was in it was broken, and so I had purchased it broken in the hoping of fixing it, which I did. So let's begin. Looking from left to right on the WeatherStar Jr, what we see here is the serial number, which of course is the unit serial number. And this one is the power LED, and this one is illuminated when acceptable power is present. Video is when acceptable video is present, and you'll see down here that right now I have acceptable video to the second one, which you'll see in a few minutes. Data is illuminated when acceptable data is present, and of course this doesn't happen anymore since there's no more data. Language open, it's basically when the solid state switch language is open on the back, and this would switch the audio channels on the video cipher. And of course this is open because it's technically on all the time on one of these old WeatherStar Juniors that isn't used anymore, but you can change it with the keyboard, which I'll demonstrate in a few minutes really. Unit address is when the WeatherStar Jr receives a command or data which is specific to this unit only. LC pre-roll, it flashes when a local commercial is about to begin. This is an unused LED, and I have no idea why they put it there. SC alarm, this is when the WeatherStar Jr loses the subcarrier lock, which allows it to receive data. And of course, since that doesn't exist anymore, of course it's going to be on. This 5-pin AT connector is for the keyboard. I actually have a converter for this so I can use it. And this is also the DD power connection on the back of the WeatherStar XL. And of course, we're overviewing the WeatherStar Jr. And here's the top of the unit. Lots of holes here. Of course all these are ventilation vents so that heat doesn't build up. Boy, there are a lot of them. And here's the label on the top. Now, in case you're wondering what the other side looks like, it's basically the same thing except, let's see. Focused in. A lot less holes, only 3 this time. So when we look at the back of the unit, what we see here is a caution label. Well, first off, and it's a risk of electric shock one, just like on the front of the WeatherStar 4000. Now, I have some pictures of the one on the bottom. It's inside, but that was when it wasn't working. So video in and video out, 2 B and C connectors. These still work, and if you do try to plug it in, it will try to activate the LDL, which is really interesting. Baseband in. This is for the data, and it really isn't used anymore because, you know, the Weather Channel discontinued the feed and everything. Here's the serial port that goes out to a PC. This is for ad crawls and like the setup. Here's the power connector, the chassis ground, and the terminal strips here. Language, weather warning, LC pre-roll, and crawl on.
When you're learning certain material, you just don't skim over it. You just have to go through the definitions like you would in a dictionary with words. So why not go over what connects to the WeatherStar Jr. and why? This is what I'm going to be talking about in this closer look. For some people, this picture is easy to identify. It's a video cipher too, for those of you who don't know. Now, the back of this is what connects to the WeatherStar Jr, obviously, since you can't connect it from the front. Notice the language port on the back of this WeatherStar Jr, and look at this picture of the back of the video cipher. Can you spot the language port? If you can, then you'll understand that a few of these ports are really easy to identify, and so some of these connections may not be harder to identify. But some of these, such as crawl on the back of the WeatherStar Jr, are difficult because you don't see a spot on that equipment. And there is no certain use for the crawl on solid state switch. There is no definition in the manual for it. A few of these other ones, such as LC pre-roll, connect to commercial insertion equipment that was used back in the day. This equipment would allow the cable company to display their own local ads with the WeatherStar Jr as an activator. Well, what happens when you produce a piece of equipment and it doesn't have a function that you need years later? Well, you make another piece of equipment to slap right on with it. And that's exactly what the Weather Channel did with the WeatherStar Jr and the audio alert generator. WeatherStar Jr was one of two major targets by the FCC after it did not function properly, and this function was the creation of tones during severe weather. Both it and the 3000 were incapable of making these tones, which were then required, and they still are. The WeatherStar 3000 was scrapped because it couldn't work like any other star, but the Junior had special attention given to it. The Weather Channel made the audio alert generator for it, which was a one-rack unit, basically WeatherStar Jr looking piece of equipment that mounted right underneath the Junior and would attach to the back of the Junior using the weather warning solid state switch. This switch would allow the piece of equipment to determine if and when a warning was issued. Then this piece of equipment would send an audio buzz to the rest of the audio feed, which it connected straight to. This was the only audio connection the WeatherStar Jr system would make, because the original unit did not have an audio port.
So remember what I said about having a video source connected to that second WeatherStar? Well, turns out that I do, and I'm going to be using it in a demonstration. So, looking up here, we have an exact picture of what's actually going on right now. What exactly can you do? Well, probably one of the biggest parts is around the use of the crawl messages editor and the diagnostics, both of which are accessed using the LDL. So, let's begin. So from left to right, from top to bottom, we have the serial number, we have the address switch settings, we have the data quality, we have the relay settings, we have the baud rate for the serial connection, and we have the state of the sensors. So let's go through each of these right now. So of course, serial number, this is the unit serial number. It also has the version right beside it, version 1.2 of the Junior software. We have the address switch settings here. It's displayed in hex, and each digit will be displayed with a value between O and F. So, there we go. We also have the data quality, which is updated every second. It is an indication of the error rate of the data stream. It just reset at power up. Oh, excuse me for just a second. That just happened. Sorry for the interruption. When the F7 key is pressed while in diagnostics mode, which is what we're in right now. The relays are the So this is the solid state relay setting, and what this does is you can press any key from F1 through F4, you can change the value of the solid state relays on the Junior. And we'll see what you're talking about, like this. Excuse me. Notice that all of this is changing from a value of 0 or 1. I'll have a video clip of what happens to the front LEDs when I do this again in just a second. The baud rate is the baud rate of the RS-232 serial port on the back of this for the PC connection. And let's go through a look of what these baud rates are by pressing F5. There we go. And of course we have the sensors, and by pressing F6, sorry for the interruptions here, I'm having to look down at my keyboard, and of course that's causing shaking too. And it says it's okay even though I don't have sensors hooked up, so bizarre, but I mean it works. So that's the diagnostics mode right there. So let's go on right now. By pressing Alt-C on the keyboard, you can bring up one of my favorite features of the Junior, which is the crawl editor. And of course this would also be on the WeatherStar 4000, but it doesn't have its software, which is disappointing at the least. So I have decided to type a message here, and that is hello world, blah, blah, blah. And that is pretty much a mess, so I'm just going to demonstrate some things, like entering. By pressing the enter button, you can have the options to exit and save changes. By pressing Y on the keyboard, obviously it's going to give you the option to exit and save. And if you press no, it's just going to bring you back to the crawl. Now there are ways to get around saving it, but I'll bring that up to question later. For the shakiness here, I'm having to hold one hand with the phone and another with the keyboard. So of course I made a mess of the LDL here, and I'm proud of that. So what better thing to do than destroy it even further? So of course your left and right arrow keys are going to allow you to move your cursor so you can do whatever. Control in these arrow keys is going to allow you to move to the first letter of every word. Insert's going to allow you to change the way that cursor looks from a flat piece at the bottom of a letter to this fat thing that covers the entire thing. Of course I'm going to keep it like this because so you can see it better, but anyway, page up is going to allow you to move quickly and easily along these letters here, so you can get from one end to another really quickly. Control X is going to close the editor without saving it. And it's going to bring up this screen, exit and lose changes. So by pressing no, you can do whatever, but of course by pressing Y, it's going to close it out and you're not going to have any of your changes saved. By pressing the end key, you'll go directly to the end. By pressing the home key, you'll go right back to where you started. So let's just go ahead and press Control X, which of course is going to bring us to this menu. Exit and lose changes, and let's press Y. Now I'm sorry if I didn't get all the commands. I'll try to have them up at the end of the video in a full format. Of course this is all just for demonstration purposes, so sorry for the shaky video and sorry for any errors I made.
Of course, I promised pictures for stuff at the insides of the unit, so here we go. So, cue generic music, I guess? don't leave the window just yet, because here's a short video that shows the Junior attempting to start up its LDL, well, of course without data, because no data. For reference, here are a few of the commands that the WeatherStar Jr uses on its front keyboard-based crawl editor.